This is Jambound, Chapter 1 by Anonymous on AO3, narrated by JO3. The room is too bright. It's quaint in a nauseating sort of way. Polished floors glint from gleaming honeycomb chandeliers overhead, making him squint. A few vases sprinkled here and there, filling the room with a sickeningly sweet scent. Even a waffle cone headrest framing the silken sheets of a neatly tucked bed. Outside, the golden sun gleams, the gentle rays of light spilling past curtains that waver in the afternoon breeze. It's meant to be beautiful, luxurious, welcoming. With one sweep of his cane, Shadowmilk tears it apart. To his credit, Pure Vanilla does not flinch. He stands patiently in the doorway, watching as Shadowmilk throws the curtains shut and flings the dresser across the floor. It's not until the concerned murmuring of other cookies draws near that there's a step forward, the door shutting to block them from view as Shadowmilk continues eviscerating every scrap of furniture before him. The bed he does not touch. When finished, the room is darkened, far beyond what any normal cookie could accomplish. A false midnight sky shimmers above, choking out any scrap of miserable light that dare dip into his domain. The gleaming ornaments that had filled the room with joy and life lie shattered on the floor, wooden carnage strewn carelessly. The chandelier now glimmers with faint blue flame, throwing dancing shadows across the wreckage that leave a bitter smile upon Shadowmilk's lips. Pure Vanilla clears his throat, and the smile drops. "Well," Pure Vanilla hums, stepping gingerly across the shattered lamp. "I suppose I did tell you to make yourself feel at home." Shadowmilk does not answer him. There are tens of hundreds of witty retorts that spring to the tip of his silver tongue. He bites them all down, savoring the acrid taste of his own hatred. It feels sickening to be silent. The once fount of knowledge, the master of deceit, holding back his oh-so-valuable words. Anger like this is so potent, so stunning in the way it stiffens his movements and quickens his breath into something foul and acrid. To be reduced to a beast not only in name, but in how the feeling of desperate savagery rips through him in each shuddering inhale. He does not know why he is here. Shadowmilk? He turns, the call of his name moving his body before he can refuse. His eyes land on the small speck of light that glitters on stubbornly in his darkness. Pure Vanilla's soul jam gleams under his hungry gaze. Shadowmilk takes in a steady breath. He knows why he's here. Pure Vanilla must take his silence for something else, because he has the gall to reach out, his small hand lifted up to where Shadowmilk floats, a quiet beckoning to bring him closer. Shadowmilk fixes him with a loathing stare, and the hand drops, returning back to its familiar perch atop the staff. "Are you sure?" Pure Vanilla's murmur is quiet, repugnantly gentle. The soft caress over Shadowmilk's bristling hackles that does nothing to soothe them. He finds his words. "Sorry, did you need something?" The words sail on a lilted tone, patronizing and cruel. Shadowmilk's specialty. "Can't you see I'm busy redecorating?" Another flick of his cane and the bed flips, tumbling up to pin against the ceiling. "Really, I know you're needy and all, but I think you'd be smart enough to take a hint." Pure Vanilla's patient gaze doesn't waver. Worse, it softens. "I have several summons to attend to this evening." "Well, aren't you popular?" "I won't be able to return until after the moon has set." Pure Vanilla adjusts his grip on his staff. Shadowmilk tamps down on the vicious urge to sink his teeth into him. "Will you be awake?" "Dollface, I'm surprised I'm awake as it is in this snooze fest of a place." Shadowmilk crosses his legs, flipping upside down in the air. "Vanilla Kingdom? Really? Points off for originality there." "I'll knock," Pure Vanilla replies quietly. "If you'd like." Nothing about this has been what he likes. "Hey, don't worry about it." Shadowmilk floats upward, landing on the sheets of the bed still pinned overhead. "Listen, if I'm snoozing, you're always welcome to come up here and get me yourself." A ghost of a smile traces Pure Vanilla's lips. "Tonight, then." He turns to leave, and another impulse sings through Shadowmilk's core, one he is all too delighted to voice. "I wonder what they think." Pure Vanilla turns back, a quiet, questioning gaze in his answer. You know, Shadowmilk smiles, all teeth, all bared. Keeping a beast locked away in your chambers. Bit scandalous, no? You are my guest. The reply is too simple, comes too easily. They will respect that. In an instant, Shadowmilk is off the bed. Before the other can even blink, Shadowmilk's hovering before him, faces less than an inch apart as their gazes lock in place. One mismatched eye blinking back at the other, misbegotten twins, each searching the other for an answer they were never going to give. That's not what I asked, Shadowmilk breathes. This close, he can smell pure vanilla's scent, light and gentle, cloying and intoxicating. It's a wonder he hasn't been crumbled already, that some equally fanged beast hasn't given in and devoured him whole. Shadowmilk still might. He hasn't decided. Pure vanilla swallows. Shadowmilk traces the movement from the corner of his eyes. I asked, Shadowmilk hisses. What they think. He keeps pinning pure vanilla with his gaze, unrelenting even as the other's softens in turn. So trapped in the mirror of their eyes, he doesn't even feel the gentle touch on his cheek. Not until pure vanilla murmurs back. What will you make them think? A moment passes, a single droplet of time, suspended, wherein the only sound Shadowmilk hears is the quiet huff of their breaths intermingling. The only sensation, the warmth of a hand caressing his cheek. Outside, a bird caws, and the time starts anew. Shadowmilk sneers, shoving the hand away. He turns his back to the other, floating back up towards his bed, as a soft sigh sounds from below. It is a small mercy that pure vanilla accepts the rejection without a fight. The click of the door closing behind him is like a bell-tolling relief. Shadowmilk lets out a sigh of his own, flopping haphazardly on the bed. He stares up at the ceiling, watching the illusionary twilight of his own making shift and swirl in a myriad of gloom and miasma. His hands find purchase in the sheets, absent-mindedly tugging on them until they lay loose and disheveled at his back. Really, tucking in the sheets. For the master of deceit? The lord of chaos? How laughable. Hours pass. Or they must, anyway. Shadowmilk spent it all staring into the void, twirling his wrist and boredly watching apparitions of cookies squeal and crumble beneath the jaws of wolves, dragons, his own sometimes. It's tiresome, a tiny balm on the throbbing sore of his mounting frustration. His growing headache isn't helping out, but, well, that's a wound of his own doing. He'd been the one to send pure vanilla off in a huff, and he hasn't even gotten a sliver of anger from the other for his troubles. It's the gentle creak of the door that breaks his daze, making him sit upright in the bed. There's a pause, then 2 gentle knocks, causing a sly smile to flit across Shadowmilk's face. You know, he calls, twisting his head like an owl. One is supposed to knock before entering. There's a small laugh in reply, and, pure vanilla looks tired. The dark coloring under his eyes are almost comical. Even the efforts he exerts to close the door seems to come with a slight tremble. He heaves a sigh that feels too large to come from such a frail body, following up with another short laugh. My apologies, he rasps, directing his gaze upwards. Today was more involved than I had anticipated. Oh golly, oh me, oh my! Shadowmilk snaps his neck back into place, lowering down to the ground until he can float eye to eye with the other. Why, pure vanilla, you look! His grin widens, sharp and vicious. Absolutely terrible! Pure vanilla huffs another laugh as Shadowmilk gleefully continues. What they do? No, wait, let me guess. Stick you under a rolling pin, drag you through the berry bushes, or maybe put you through the oven again. It certainly feels like it. Pure vanilla reaches up, removing his crown and hanging it on the splintered remains of a coat rack. I wouldn't say no to the warmth of an oven, anyway. It's freezing in here. Still, his hands reach for the clasp on his cloak. Shadowmilk's gaze traces his movements as he shrugs off the heavy garments, disposing them carelessly on the floor. The view is amusing, almost pleasing in a way, if not for the familiar glint of the soul jam brooch as it's dutifully refastened to pure vanilla's robe. Shadowmilk tears his eyes away from it, slipping back into his wicked smile as he presses. Well, come on now. Don't spare the details from little old me. It's been so boring. You could at least do me the favor of telling me about how miserable you were today. Not miserable, Pure Vanilla corrects, dusting off his robe. Just tiring. One of the younger cookies accidentally set off a golem, and in their haste to escape, brought it into the city proper. He then looks up, mouth opening to speak again, before falling abruptly silent at the scowl Shadowmilk is levying at him. You mean to tell me, Shadowmilk says slowly, dangerously, that there was a golem running loose through your oh-so-precious kingdom, and you didn't think to invite me? Pure Vanilla peaks a curious brow. I didn't think you'd be interested in helping with that sort of thing. I didn't say I would help. Pure Vanilla hums in reply. He takes a step forward, and they both know what it is. Seeking acknowledgement, permission, an offer, a request for something that's growing long overdue. Shadowmilk doesn't mimic the motion. He's stubborn. Sue him. And to think, he mutters sourly, we were having such a good time talking about how awful you looked. Another sigh, and Pure Vanilla steps forward again, crossing the room until they stand less than a foot apart. It's meaningless. Shadowmilk can float as high and away as he pleases, but it's a gesture nonetheless. Pure Vanilla is, once again, the first to reach a hand across the bridge. Annoying. You are welcome to join me tomorrow, if you so choose, Pure Vanilla says softly. There is much more to this kingdom than you've seen through my eyes. Shadowmilk sneers. Oh, I'm free to roam, do as I please. And here I thought you wanted me all tucked away in this room, nice and quiet. Doing as you please is not something I can promise, considering the capriciousness of your whims. Pure Vanilla tilts his head, trying to catch the gaze that Shadowmilk is stubbornly averting. But you never forbade me from leaving when I was in your home. As long as I have a say, you will never be caged here. Shadowmilk finally lowers his gaze. You know I would have crushed you to pieces if you'd tried to leave. Yes, Pure Vanilla replies evenly. But still, there was a choice. I will not make you a prisoner here. And, oh, how that draws a sneer to Shadowmilk's face. His fist grabs the front of Pure Vanilla's robes, violently hoisting him into the air as the other lets out a startled noise. He then pulls them in close, locking their gazes as Pure Vanilla struggles in his grip. Make no mistake, Nilly, he hisses. We are both prisoners. His grip slackens and Pure Vanilla drops to the ground. There's a small stumble, a wince, and a sharp inhale of breath. Shadowmilk can't help but roll his eyes. Fine, he sighs, massaging his temples. His headache is back, and he's tired too. Tired of this. Tired of fighting the inevitable just because this cookie, this damned cookie... Let's just... Shadowmilk inhales, exhales, claps his hands together. Joker's smile back on his face. Aw, shucks. I was probably too rough on a little old thing like you, huh? You know, I just get so cranky when I'm cooped up. Brings back bad memories. Little bit of a sensitive subject. You understand. Pure Vanilla's straightening up, using his staff for leverage as he looks Shadowmilk up and down, quiet wariness replacing what had been an open hand. Deserved, perhaps. Are we? Yes, Shadowmilk interrupts. Yes, all right. I've got a splitting headache anyway, and all this pestering isn't helping my... He waves a lazy hand around the room. Pure Vanilla follows the motion, scanning the destruction left by what used to be furniture. There isn't anywhere to sit, though. Could you... Shadowmilk sighs dramatically, rolling his cane. With a creaking groan, the bed on the ceiling flips over, dropping down with a shaking crash to the floor. Pure Vanilla flinches at the impact, a small frown creasing his brow. You know, you probably just woke half the castle. Really? Shadowmilk drawls. I so graciously accommodate, and that's your thanks? Is this really how you want this to go? I suppose not. Pure Vanilla's already setting up on the edge of the bed, hands folding in his lap. You are trying. He's not, but he'll take it. With a heavy sigh, Shadowmilk floats over next to him, settling just inches away on the bedspread. A lazy glance over, and Pure Vanilla is still resolutely staring down at his hands, clenching and unclenching the fabric of his robe. He always gets so nervous when they do this. Like it isn't his fault in the first place. Shadowmilk's gaze drifts absently down to the soul jam tucked neatly against the other's chest. It gleams, even in the dim light, even after all of Shadowmilk's futile attempts to snuff out every bit of light within. In their mutual silence it hums, rings, pulses, louder and louder as Shadowmilk leans in closer. His own is singing in reply. The first time they'd done this had been the strangest, the worst. They hadn't known, couldn't have possibly known. Only base instincts had survived them, if one could even call them that. Shadowmilk had even ignored the pull the first time, chalking it up to nothing more than phantom pain. Back then, all those months ago, when he'd been licking his wounds in the safety of his other realm and soothing his bruised ego as best he could, everything felt aggravated by the whines and cajoling of his minions. Their worship and praise of him had just been salt on the wound. He'd attributed the burning in his chest and shifting dreams of gold to nightmares to... Well, he didn't get trauma. Other cookies got trauma. He got something else. Annoyed, perhaps. Yet the dreams, above all else, had persisted. Shimmering fields of wheat, the bleats of lambs. A calling, ringing in his ears, pursued him night after night. Each dream a little different, always bright and full of him. That wretched face that plagued even his waking hours. They'd been irritating, and yes, his soul jam had burned hotter and hotter each night, but they were remnants. A memory of that brief moment where two had become one. Where he'd been, they'd been. He doesn't really remember what he'd thought after that, because an all-consuming pain had blanketed everything else. It had hurt more than anything he can remember, hurt more than his battles or banishing, or even the first time one of his limbs threatened to crumble. And hurt had made him desperate. Shadowmilk had, unfortunately, had the upper hand. Pure Vanilla wouldn't know where to find him, but he'd known exactly where the other would be. There had been some small, warped solace that when he'd slithered out of the shadows in the other's room, when he'd stood to drink in the crumbled and shaking body of his foe, he'd known the pain was mutual. Shadowmilk? He's drawn out of his thoughts by a light touch to his shoulder. He shrugs it off, and Pure Vanilla's hand withdraws. Come on, he sighs, leaning forward. I know you've just been dying without me. You look it anyway. Pure Vanilla shifts closer, slow and careful. No matter how many times it's been, he never seems to lose that nervousness. Always tentative, like he's afraid Shadowmilk's going to spook, like handling a wild beast. Perhaps there's some detestable truth in that. There's a gentle thump as the tips of their foreheads touch. Pure Vanilla's eyes flutter shut, and Shadowmilk allows him to do the same. Their hands find their soul jams, grasping around the frames as they sing, quivering in anticipation for the inevitable. This close, Shadowmilk can feel their pull down to his very core. His hands move blindly, pulling his own brooch forward as Pure Vanilla does the same. There's a breath, a moment of hesitation from no one but themselves. A soft clink as their jams touch is the only warning they're given before the world melts away. The feeling is indescribable. Nothing like that night since atop the spire, nothing like anything before or since. It is music and movement and a blur of blues and blacks, whites and golds that blend and swirl beneath his eyelids. Songs he'll never know whisper to him as he stands atop a mountain, beneath a sea, against the backdrop of a starry sky. He's a droplet in a river that flows and spirals around the moon. He dances on a stage that's strung up by golden thread. He's a prophet, a king, a god. He is dust. He's afraid, except he is not. Never afraid, never alone, because there is a hand clasped in his, tight and strong as everything comes undone and reforms in each blink of an eye. He is a fount, and he is himself, but two of him stand eye to eye and whisper something so sweet that it brings him to his knees. He wants to remember, but he doesn't, and then the music starts up again. Shadowmilk is never sure how long it's supposed to last. Most times they wake up in the privacy of a room, dazed and sprawled into whatever chair or surface they'd been sitting on after only a few minutes. The first time they'd been too close, clutching each other chest to chest in angry, pained desperation. A vicious embrace that had not ended until two guards had found them the next morning, ripping them apart with spear tips to Shadowmilk's throat. He barely remembers escaping, slipping away, still reeling from the days of golds and blues in a haze that had not cleared for yet another day, as he'd sworn, cheeks burning in shame, that he was not to be blamed for a singular fit of hysteria. When the burning sensation in his jam returned, he'd leveled a mountain in his rage. There'd been some amusement, at least, in sneaking around, in pure Vanilla's embarrassment, his desperation to hide their affliction from prying eyes. It had grown fun to toy with his reluctance, to wait out the agony by watching pure Vanilla's own from the shadows, to see him wallow in his wretched, pathetic guilt, knowing Shadowmilk felt the same pain he did, that it was his fault. One stupid little trick at the spire, that's all it had taken, and now he's left playing pet for his own soul's thief. The irritation flowing through him must mean that it's wearing off. Shadowmilk slowly sits up, vision swimming as he groans. He rubs at his forehead, blearily taking in the still settling sights of the room. His room. His room in the Vanilla Kingdom, perfectly placed under pure Vanilla's thumb. A raspy, irritated growl echoes down his throat. There's a small sound. Shadowmilk's gaze drops tiredly to the other slumped beside him. Pure Vanilla's lashes are fluttering, beckoning him back to the waking world. He looks small like this, dazed and confused, vulnerable, breakable. Shadowmilk passes a hand over Pure Vanilla's brooch. The jam hums beneath his touch, but it does not warm. It does not call to him like before, does not accept him anymore. Pure Vanilla had claimed it too thoroughly, stamped his own essence into what is rightfully Shadowmilk's. Still, it resonates with his own half. That's something, a small solace. It is a chance that maybe, just maybe, if Pure Vanilla falls, if he willingly takes the step just once more, well, all things in good time. Pure Vanilla's eyes crack open. Shadowmilk swiftly snatches his hand away. Pure Vanilla's lidded gaze half follows the movement before he groans, burying his face deeper into the sheets. Small, weak, pathetic, like a baby bird. Shadowmilk instantly dismisses the thought from his mind, giving Pure Vanilla's shoulder a rough shove. Hey, show's over. Don't you know it's rude to stick around? Changes on the nightstand, tuts. Pure Vanilla groans again, but this time his eyes open in full. He wearily pushes himself up, getting to his feet as he absently brushes back the hair from his eyes. His stance is unsteady, swaying a bit before catching himself as he sighs. How long? Don't know, Shadowmilk sing-songs. And don't care. Bye-bye now. Pure Vanilla vacantly shuffles over to the door, bending down to grasp half-blindedly at his coat before shoving his crown on his head. It lays askew, tilting to the right as Shadowmilk grins at the sight. Really, truly pathetic. Shadowmilk. Pure Vanilla's voice cuts through the quiet. Shadowmilk allows his own languid gaze to drift up to meet Pure Vanilla's own. Yes? A beat before Pure Vanilla continues. I'd like you to be happy here. Oh. Oh, and isn't that funny? A wicked smile creases Shadowmilk's lips. A bubble of laughter slips past, then another, and another. His throat clenches, a slew of giggles bursting out like a dam crumbling at his feet. He laughs and laughs and laughs, sides aching and chest heaving as he falls forward, clutching at himself as peals of laughter tear through him. Oh, it feels good to laugh like that. By the time Shadowmilk is wiping at his eyes, still grinning ear to ear, Pure Vanilla has dressed in full, waiting at the edge of the door and watching him with tired eyes. It's to his credit that he hasn't left yet. Pure Vanilla did make for a wonderful audience when he chose to. Oh, you always did know how to make me laugh, silly Nilly. Pretending like you don't know why I'm here. He glides upwards, hovering high above as he looks down at Pure Vanilla and bares his teeth in a wicked grin. Dollface, this room is just the appetizer, the amuse-bouche for what I'm going to do to your tiny, insignificant speck of a kingdom that you have so graciously welcomed me into with open arms. He tilts his head, neck cracking as his smile widens. After all, what are friends for if not to liven up each other's day? Pure Vanilla's patient stare is steady. The only sign he's listening is the straightening of his back as he holds Shadowmilk's gaze. What? Shadowmilk presses. Nothing to say? Not my fault we're bound, now is it? I'd say my version of our, cosmic intertwining went a whole lot better than yours. Regretful, are we? Tomorrow. Shadowmilk tilts his head further, slipping the joints entirely. Tomorrow what? Tomorrow, Pure Vanilla continues, my evening will be free. After the sun sets, there's a blue moon garden I'd like to take you to. Huh? I've never been, but White Lily Cookie says it's very beautiful at night. Pure Vanilla turns towards the door, palm on the handle. I think you'll like it. Shadowmilk's eyes narrow to slits. Get out. The sight of Pure Vanilla's back brings him no relief, nor the lock clicking into place. Not even hurling the wooden remains of what had been a dresser at the door does enough to itch the irritation crawling down Shadowmilk's spine. With a huff, he floats back down, collapsing on the bed and rubbing at his forehead. He grabs at the sheets, pulling them over himself as he rolls on his side and stares venomously into the darkness. A hand reaches up to rub at his soul jam. Shadowmilk's scowl deepens. It's humming again. Okay, and that is chapter 1 of Jambound. This is my second YouTube video. I'm saying way too much. Okay, and that is Jambound by Anonymous, chapter 1. This is my second YouTube video, so there's gonna be some scuff in this one. I've already dealt with that as my mic cord stopped working like halfway through this recording. That was annoying. If you have any suggestions or, just suggestions for how, like, if there's anything that I do that isn't fully in character, or if my mic isn't working properly and you know how to fix that, that would be lovely. Please put any advice in the comments. I hopefully will have one of these episodes out a week, but I cannot promise anything as I am still in school and that takes first priority. So, yeah. Anyway, the full fanfiction will be linked in the description. Please, please, please go and read it. Give the author all of the support in the world. I think this is genuinely an amazing fic, and I'm so excited to be narrating the rest of this. If you have a fic that you want me to read, whether one-shot or longer fic, multi-chapter, whatever, I can't guarantee that I will do it because I normally like to do ones in fandoms that I'm in so that I can portray the characters correctly. But feel free to DM me. I have a video talking about all of that up on my shorts page. So yeah, just go there and watch that if you are interested. Bye!